The World Food Programme warns that the ongoing war spurs hunger across the country. Millions of displaced people in Yemen need aid and shelter amid funding crisis. Masam demining project announces removal of Houthi mines in newly liberated areas in Shabwa. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shaza Abdelbey. United Nations World Food Programme said it documented cases where Yemeni families are forced to eat leaves because of hunger. The WFP said hunger in Yemen is rising amid the country's conflict and economic decline. The program added that the families in some of the worst hit areas of Yemen, like Hajjah, are resorting to desperate measures like eating leaves to survive. Over 5 million people in Yemen are on the brink of famine as the conflict and economic decline have left families struggling to find enough food to get through the day. This report has more details.
The Yemeni crisis remains one of the largest in the world, with around 21 million people in need of humanitarian assistance, more than half of which are children. Hunger in Yemen has reached unprecedented levels. 16.2 million Yemenis live in a state of food insecurity, despite ongoing humanitarian assistance. Areas like Hajjah, Amran, and Al Jawf, where nearly 50,000 people live on the edge of starvation, have sunk back into a famine-like conditions following a 2-year reprieve. Families grapple on to feed their young as the war wages and as the economy continues to decline, with over 5 million Yemenis on the cusp of famine. Malnutrition rates among women and children in Yemen are among the highest in the world, with 1.2 million pregnant or breastfeeding women and 2.3 million children under 5 suffering from acute malnutrition. A recent survey showed that almost 1/3 of families have nutritionally insufficient diets, hardly having access to foods like vegetables, fruit, dairy products, or meat. Yemen's humanitarian situation is highly precarious, and any delay in the delivery of key supplies such as food, fuel, and medicine has the potential to push millions of people closer to starvation. The World Food Programme urges for unrestricted access to those in most need in order to avoid famine.
Oxfam called on the UN Security Council to condemn the recent attacks in Yemen and to have peace talks to end the war in Yemen. The calls follow the recent escalation that led to the suspension of humanitarian aid in parts of the country. Oxfam's media manager said people are struggling and are traumatized. The conflict is forcing more and more people to leave their homes in search of safety. Yemenis displaced by the conflict now face different types of threats. Ahmed is one of those who have left his houses in Taiz and resort to a cave only to seek shelter. This report has more details.
Abdullah Ahmed Mohammed, a Yemeni citizen, displaced from the city of Taiz. He lives with his 5 children and his wife inside an isolated cave, and they are all drowning in poverty. A cave with 2 rooms built of small stones stacked as insulation and protection from the cold. The 22-meter-long cave is filled with moisture and rainwater that falls all over their heads. This family suffers from hunger and cold. They have nothing to do in this scary cave, and they have nowhere else to go to. The father of the family suffers from heart and liver diseases. He is unable to work, and there is no one to support his young children. His treatment is very expensive and costs a lot of money, approximately 20,000 riyals per month.
I'm homeless. I have moved to this cave because I don't have a house. Nobody offered to help in providing food or medicine. I suffer from chronic diseases and I have to buy medicine on a monthly basis. It costs 18,000 riyals and I can't afford it. Winter has added to our troubles. We need food and shelter. I have got 9 kids and our situation is really miserable.
My husband suffers from chronic diseases. He can't work. Sometimes neighbors come to help. We have no food. Aid agencies come here to take footage and pictures of us. Then they disappear. We lack basics of life. We can't afford buying medicine to my sick husband. And my kids are too young. They can't work.
Organizations in the recent time have ignored these displaced people due to the war. 7 years of hunger and homelessness. An entire family shallows the bitterness and cruelty of life. They lack the most basic necessities of living a decent life. UNHCR is warning that further escalation of the conflict will only increase the vulnerability of people, especially those displaced, as the front lines shift closer to densely populated areas. Their lives are in danger and access to humanitarian aid is becoming harder. Displaced people in Yemen keep suffering amid the hard conditions that the country is going through in the time of war.
The terrorist Houthi militia committed a new crime against civilians in Hodeidah, west of Yemen, in which a family was killed. Local and medical sources reported that the Houthi militia targeted civilian objects in the countryside of Hais with mortar shells, which resulted in the death of a citizen and the injury of his family members. Civilians were killed as a result of the Houthi militia targeting the city of Al-Naqoub in Usaylan district in Shabwa. The Houthi militia had targeted Abdullah bin Mas'ud Mosque in a Safha area in Usaylan district with a missile. The missile caused the death of 4 civilians and the injury of 5 others, in addition to significant damage to the buildings.
This is Abdullah bin Mas'ud's mosque in Safha. It was targeted yesterday with a Houthi ballistic missile. A number of citizens were victims. This is a worshipping house. As you can see, all parts of the mosque have been targeted. Even the minaret, the mosque of the women, was also attacked.
The coalition fighters' jet destroyed sites and fortifications of the terrorist Houthi militia on the fronts west of Taiz. In 4 airstrikes, the coalition fighters' jets targeted military sites and vehicles of the Houthi militia in the neighborhood of Tabit al-Munayim west of the governorate. The raids resulted in the destruction of a tank, an armored vehicle, and eliminated a number of militia militants. Military sources said the artillery of the government forces shelled Houthi militia trenches and sites in Hajjah. The artillery attack resulted in heavy losses for the militia after demolishing their positions and damaging their military vehicles. Massam project for demining managed to pull out more than 7,700 landmines in Bayhan and Harib district in Ma'rib. With this, Massam has removed 314,891 landmines since its operation throughout Yemen. The director of Massam called on the international community to put pressure on the terrorist Houthi militia to stop planting mines. Coming next, Al-Hadar, a festival of peace celebrated in Hadramaut over years.
اضطرينا ان احنا نغادر من ذي ونزحنا.
الله يستمكن كل يوم حولتني لا الله يستمكن.
Welcome back. Yemen enjoys a cultural diversity that dates back to ancient times. Part of this diversity are the festivals which are celebrated in a number of areas. Al-Hadar is one of those festivals which has been celebrated by people in Hadramaut over years. This report has more details.
In the rhythm of the Shabwani folk dance, the activities of the annual festival known historically as Al-Haddar Festival were inaugurated in the city of Qatan in Hadramaut Governorate, to which people gather from all over the Hadramaut Valley. An annual festival that the people of Qatan city have been reviving annually for nearly 150 years as a popular heritage, cultural and commercial event in culmination of one of the oldest public peace treaties between the warring tribes at that time, which was recently reflected in the state of security and social peace throughout the governorate cities.
هذا الموسم رقم 155 قبل 155 عام.
This is the annual festival of Al-Haddar, which has been celebrated over decades and is well known in Al-Qatan district. The first one who inaugurated it was Omar Al-Haddar, who was a religious scholar. This festival is considered as a truce for tribes in the valley, where you could visit in peace during a fixed period between 8 and 10 days, when the water of the valley descends on all commercial shops owners, where all different types of products exist.
The festival's activity begins with the second half of this lunar month of each year, as an annual tradition that the people of Qatan city used to revive within the framework of various and multiple activities that contribute to the prosperity of the commercial movement, in addition to strengthening the bonds of acquaintance and reunion of the members of the community.
This festival is annual. It has been celebrated over years. We can see its commercial festival lately, which is visited by many commercial houses and craft owners. This year, this event is special as the preparations for it has started early this year by forming an organizing committee for the festival who've planned for a cultural competition in which they will distribute 10 prizes which are estimated to cost 800,000 riyals.
This popular temporary market, which is held over a period of 2 weeks, is one of the most prominent manifestations of the commercial festival, as it's visited by citizens from different cities of Hadramaut.
We as expats feel with those rituals. We were hoping to visit it, and thank God we did today. We had a great impression, and these things give hope to people during this hard time, and hopefully people like it.
A heritage and civilized event, although its features change from year to year, but its historical and cultural symbolism remains, and is present as an annual tradition that restores hope in the hearts of citizens in light of the difficult circumstances that Hadramaut Governorate is going through, like other governorates of the country.
The internet service in Yemen was faded throughout the country. According to a local official, the outage was caused by a disruption of the submarine cable feeding the internet in Yemen, amid direct accusations of Houthi militia of being behind the poor quality of service. With support from the United Nations Development Programme, work is continuing in the first energy production unit from waste materials in Lahj. The project helps communities in tackling waste management by promoting and facilitating a cash for trash mechanism through purchase points where individuals can sell their waste for cash. While people in Sana'a and Houthi-controlled areas are experiencing hard living conditions, senior Houthi leaders are manipulating black market for everything. This report has more details.
In the midst of a devastated economy, the Houthi rebels set up black market in Sana'a and other areas under their control. Everything is being sold above its real value. This includes food and oil byproducts at exorbitant prices, exploiting the dire situation of the population. According to a report, it's among the militia's objectives to control the supply of foodstuffs and other provisions as they attempt to maintain their hold on Sana'a, which they occupied September 2014. Traders and key suppliers of goods were coerced in complying with Houthis' demands. Through suppressive tactics, Houthis were able to control the market in Sana'a to tap basic needs of citizens according to their interests and the interests of their allies. The difficult humanitarian and economic situation in Yemen has been exacerbated in light of the continuing increase in prices of essential items and a serious shortage of petroleum products. The number of those living in poverty has increased by as much as 81% according to reports. The black market in Sana'a is a weapon Houthis are using against the people of the capital. In spite of an abundance of domestic gas and oil, the rebels' black market is selling these products at a price exceeding the original prices. This forces people to resort to using wood as an alternative to domestic gas. Houthi rebels have worked to expand the black markets in Sana'a as the large returns help funding their illegitimate cause. Humanitarian food aid in addition is used by the rebels for their benefit. This aid that is meant for starving Yemenis are being sold on the black market as the United Nations noted before. The World Food Programme in early reports said it uncovered the black market scam in the capital Sana'a in association with at least one local partner association tasked with handling and distributing food assistance to civilians. The WFP amounted this conduct to a stealing of food from the mouths of the hungry people at a time when children are dying in Yemen because they haven't enough food to eat.
The National Committee Against Coronavirus recorded 42 new cases of the pandemic. Committee officials said 15 recovered cases were recorded and 1 death was recorded. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 10,961, including 2,012 deaths and 7,105 cases of recovery. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. The World Food Programme warns that the ongoing war supers hunger across the country. Millions of displaced people in Yemen need aid and shelter amid funding crisis. Masam, the mining project, announces removal of Houthi mines in newly liberated areas in Shabwa. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.